It's the Dubplate Special Master.
Live and direct.
Breakfast with CubCamTV.
Trickstar Radio.
What's happening, people? We're back inside the building once again. Welcome back to Breakfast with Kovu here on Trickstar Radio. And right about now, we are jumping into something which I've been looking forward to doing ever since I stepped into the studio this morning. We are going to be looking at Venom for today's episode of Marvel Watch because I was lucky enough to go and see it on Friday. Now, there's some interesting sort of scenarios we can look at with this film. Overall, straight from the off, it's not the best Marvel film. It's not the best sort of Sony-related Marvel film. As a film, it was fun. It was enjoyable, but there are definitely things that kind of work against it, if I'm being entirely honest. The film itself felt quite short. It felt moderately rushed, especially when you're looking at a character who is as depthy as Carnage as the main villain. It definitely felt a little bit rushed. Same with Shriek. Now, here is your spoiler klaxon, because those two are obviously in the trailer, so you know who they're going to be in it. But from here on in, we'll be giving away spoilers. I actually felt the character of Cassidy was played pretty well by Woody Harrelson. I actually like the way he was able to capture the kind of lost nature of him as a character. The only issue was we didn't get to see enough of that journey. There was a cool little animated scene in the middle of the film where we sort of saw a bit of his backstory, but we didn't really get to see the growth of the character. He was just kind of evil for the sake of evil, and it didn't really work. You know, I felt there was a lot more they could have done with the character. If they'd have just extended the film a little bit, it felt like we were suddenly at the final scene very, very early on. One thing that, as always, is fantastic was Tom. You know, he is so good at doing these sort of roles. Tom Hardy is just so good at getting into character, getting into these sort of damaged roles, which is essentially what, at this point, what Eddie Brock is within the sort of Venom film series. He's quite a damaged guy. He's had his life sort of torn apart. He's now back on top after getting the Cletus story, but he still kind of carries this sort of slightly disturbed nature about him, which I think he does really, really well. The thing I think they actually capitalized very well on in this film was the comedic aspect of Venom as a character. Now, I won't lie, I haven't delved too much into Venom outside of film series. I definitely feel that as a character, Venom does have a humorous side, though, and I think they do a very good job of it in the Sony films of kind of bringing this hilarious side to Venom as a character. Obviously, the finale, the final kind of bite, shall we say, is hilarious. I'm not going to repeat what they say because it is kind of rude to say, and I don't think I'll be able to say it on the radio. But overall, it was a good way of I actually quite liked it as a way of kind of beating the bad guy. It did make me giggle. And then, obviously, the thing we do need to talk about alongside this is the post-credit scene. Now, I'm going to give you another spoiler klaxon here, because if you haven't seen the post-credit scene, I want you to go and see it in a cinema so you can take it in as it's meant to be. So, this reminded me of when I went to see Endgame and we saw the portals opening up behind us, because our cinema was going absolutely crazy when we saw this post-credit scene. Obviously, we see Venom sort of on holiday. We see Eddie Brock on holiday, sort of sat there going, what am I going to do with myself? And then he suddenly sees like a big flash, very reminiscent of that in the Spider-Man No Way Home trailer. We see the sort of almost cosmic kind of flash, and then he's suddenly in a different room. And then after that, we then see him looking at a television. We see J. Jonah Jameson sort of muttering away on the Daily Bugle sort of side of things, which we know Eddie Brock already writes for, which we saw earlier. We saw the same Daily Bugle logo, which I immediately thought, this might be something here. But then we see Eddie Brock basically look at the screen, and it's a picture of Tom Holland as Spider-Man. So this means the two are officially linked. We've known they're going to be linked, but this is the official crossover, which means we are going to be seeing these two in a film together at some point. We know the next thing we're going to see from Spider-Man is obviously No Way Home, which is going to be quite cosmic, quite multiversal, multi-universal, shall we say. We're going to see a lot of different cameos coming up in that one. If we end up seeing Venom in this film, I will lose my mind, because I've wanted to see Tom Hardy and Venom go up against Spider-Man or team up with Spider-Man so many times. I can't wait to see how this now pans out, because what I do believe is that we are likely to start seeing is a sort of lack of Spider-Man in the MCU. I think he is likely to sort of drift more towards the sort of Sonyverse. We're going to see a lot more sort of backstory on a lot of the different characters, including Mobius, of course. That is one that I saw the trailer for when we were actually in the cinema, so that's something they are now likely to be pushing over at Sony. But yeah, overall, as a film, I did really... I see what they were doing with it. You know, I really like the post-credit scene. I think that is undoubtedly the highlight, which is never really a good thing if the highlight of a film is the thing that comes after the film. But I think the film definitely had its moments. I thought there was some good fight choreography in this. I thought the general evolution of Venom as a character was good. I sort of liked the fact that Little Sims appears in this. Obviously, she's on the outro soundtrack, and she also has a scene in a nightclub, which is like, what's Little Sim's doing in a Venom film? But it's crazy to see how much she's blowing up, and it's sick to see that sort of appreciation being shown for Little Sim, because she is absolutely awesome at what she does. But that was quite a cool additional feature. Obviously, Venom in the club was hilarious, and then you've sort of got these other sort of cutscenes. I think the main sort of thing I'd like to have seen a bit more of was the sort of evolution of Carnage as a character. Not necessarily Cletus, but more Carnage, sort of his backstory. We see that more with Venom. We see his backstory, but I'd like to know a bit more about Carnage's backstory moving forward. But obviously, Carnage has now been eaten. So there we go. That's it from today's episode of Marvel Watch, though. Hopefully, you guys did enjoy. As always, youtube.com/CubCamTV for more information. For now, though, let's get into New Music Mondays. Bangers all the way.
This is Breakfast with KXVU, bringing you their morning flavours on Trickstar Radio.
Trickstar Radio.